Hello everyone, Théoden here, and welcome back to the Edain mod, where today we're doing the faction guide for Rohan, as more than almost half of you requested. It was around 42% by the end, after 100 votes. And I have to say, I understand why people like to see Rohan. It's a very fun faction to play. You've had it since the very beginning of Edain 4.0, and they've just been getting better and better ever since. I say that as the last big thing that happened to Rohan was Théoden and the King's Camp, which was years ago, and Théoden was only very recent, which again is about 6 months ago. It's not a faction that gets a lot of changes because they don't really need a lot of changes. They've just been getting some sweet additions like this outpost, which again now doesn't feel that much since it's been so long ago now for some people. But I still remember it like it was yesterday. I saw this and finally Rohan had a second outpost and it actually felt good. Anyway, let's get into the guide itself. For anyone who's not watched the other guides or doesn't know or has watched some guides from the past, these are more cut loose. We've just got core mechanics, strengths and weaknesses, how I prefer to play them and how best to beat them against the AI. Well, when the AI uses them. So starting with core mechanics, it's kind of similar to Sauron in that your faction leader is your main thing. But you can see to start with, he looks a bit old and weak and dowery. It's because of Grima Wormtongue. He is currently corrupted. He cannot gain experience. And he has this set of abilities to begin with. So all units near him gain bonus attack damage but lose armor and are less resistant to fear. Basically just showing that even in his weakened state, the people of Rohan still try to protect their king, although do it with a bit more recklessness, but also more willing to flee if things get dire. You then also get the banishment ability, which allows you to banish any of the any of your base heroes. So Merry, not the Three Hunters, not Eowyn. I don't think. No, you can't banish Eowyn, but any of the male heroes. So Merry, Eowyn, Merry, Hammer, Théoden, Gamling, or Eomer can all be banished. The 300s can't be banished. They refuse to answer to the word of the king. But by doing so, you make them stronger, but recharge their abilities. You can also make an external building produce more resources, but has less armor. Turn regular peasants into traitors, best used when they have low entities left. And then you can also retreat to make all your units immune and invincible, gain bonus speed, but they can't fight back. And if I get enough power points to change this, I always go for Glorious King very early. It's like Gandalf the White Hound just gives him better stats, but it also removes Grima's influence. He dies, and then you get the true Théoden, more damage and armor. Basically, the version of Théoden I've shown off in every other video where Théoden is around. I've never really shown off the corrupted version, which is why I did it this time. Also, because it's, again, a core mechanic of the faction. And secondly, there's the peasants and the drafting. Your 2 tier 1 powers are all focused about the peasants. You target a farm or flour mill. Basically, either burn that can make peasants. It gets a bunch of defenders around it. Let's go out to the screen here. You can see I drafted on our flour mill here. But you can also draft on farms outside the base. The more drafts you have, the cheaper your banner carriers are. But more importantly, your peasants now become drafted, and we're just going to continue to ignore Grima, the Golem. And peasants, when they're drafted, are way better than when they're not drafted. I would always recommend building a flour mill in your base to start with, and only make those peasants, and just have some other flour mills ready for when you can draft them into better peasants. It's so much more cost efficient. But obviously, if you're depending on your situation, you might be spamming more peasants than usual. But yeah, always prefer the draft over the non-draft. But also, units will instantly get drafted if they hit level 2. So if you get banner carriers, that's another way of getting draft. But you can also use the attack command power, your other tier 1 power, to draft your peasants. You also, I've only really shown off the infantry a bit, but you also have the largest cavalry roster in the game. 4 cavalry units in your base. 1 cavalry unit can be summoned through your tier 4 power, or your cavalry get boosts at level 2 if you get the highborn warhorse's power, and your outpost can make unique Rohirrim, which is the same as your basic Rohirrim. The Rohan Exiles, you get 3 of them and a faster recruit speed. We also get the Rohan Vanguards, the Royal Vanguards, which cost no command points. On top of having a unit that's dedicated to destroying buildings, horse archers, regular lancers, and then your heroic unit, which is honestly not the best heroic cav in the game. But it is still heroic cav. And then you also have the captains, which can become Knights of Medusel, just in a more elite version of your regular cavalry, because they're led by these captains, including Erkenbrand, Elfhelm, and Grimbold. And that is just talking about the core mechanics. Rohan has a lot more going on for it, but those kind of go under the strengths and weaknesses. Mainly, I've kind of gone over it already, easy cavalry access from several points. If you can't get a stables in your base, you can get an outpost. If you can't get an outpost, you can get it in your base, or you can even wait until you get the tier 4 power to get your cavalry just fully upgraded for free if you get the different upgrades here. Obviously, that's talking like really, really late game, but sometimes a game could go like that. I've not had a game like that for ages with Rohan, because honestly, peasant spam does wonders. But I can understand if some people do just prefer waiting until they get like the King's Camp here, or even just an outpost. Because I always just go for the outpost to get these 6 cav units here. That's all I really need for a good cavalry game with Rohan. Getting too much cav can lead into having problems with pikemen, and having not enough cav can make your late game very difficult, because peasants only take you so far. You also have powerful hero buffs with all your different heroes. Almost every single hero can ride a mount. Merry is the only exception, and obviously the 3 hunters. But Merry can ride with almost any of the heroes. I think only Théoden, Gamling, and Feodred can't ride with Merry. But it always makes sense to put him with Eowyn if you want to have Merry running around with your cavalry. And obviously then there's the 3 hunters, who's a summon. Well, it is a summon power, but it's a permanent summon. That is best to keep with your peasants. Or to defend, because you know it's a defensive power. And also, again, as I've already said about peasants, they are cheap. They are quite weak to begin with, but they cost 50 resources less than the Gondorian variants. And honestly, with draft, if they're near a flour mill or a farm, these peasants are better than Gondor troops. And some of the buffs that the heroes give, like Théoden, honestly make peasants better than Gondor troops. At least until you give them like their upgrades and their stances. But yeah, just doing no extra micro, peasants are better than most other basic units in the game if you just use Rohan well. However, peasants are as good as it's going to get for your infantry. We're now going to weaknesses until you get the outpost here and upgrade it to the King's Camp to start getting captains. Because as I said, captains can also become infantry as well as cavalry. I prefer cavalry. We can also get elite swordsmen and pikemen through these captains. However, that's the only way you can get elite units, because you actually have 3 different range units with 3 different damage types. You've got the unit that's decided to get stuck in the wall. Your pitch throwers, which throw like fire bombs that damage buildings and make buildings take more damage. You've got your basic archers, like every other archer, but has a kind of cool ability, increases a damage and attack range for a short time. Instead of like unlike the formations of Gondor, this is just a quick click and you're ready. And then we got this unit, which I'm very I don't like spear throwers. They're a cool concept. They've been a thing in the game since BFME 1 with the Haradrim spear throwers. But honestly, spear throwers, I don't like them. They're too easily killed off by any cavalry, and even though they do have good revenge damage, it doesn't work for me. I always prefer going basic archers or the pitch throwers, especially since these are elite units. classified as elite. I don't think they're elite. I think they're closer to basic with what they can do. Although that's just my opinion. You could be different. You might actually like this unit a lot. I'm not going to judge you for it too much. But you also have a difficult late game economy because you only get these upgrades to your economy, unlike other factions that, like Isengard has industry, lumber mills, dwarves have lumber mills, and mine shafts are good at discounting things. You don't get really good discounts with Rohan. You have banner carrier discounts and cavalry discounts. Cavalry discounts good. It's very good. You definitely want to be getting your cavalry discounts because it comes out very well when you get the highborn war horses to make this unit cost less as well. And I think it also... oh no, it just adds it to that. You do just get the discount on the elite knights base. But yeah, the best way to keep your economy going as Rohan is have Eomer, who, if you have corrupted Théoden, you cannot recruit from your stables. You can only recruit it from the exiled camp. That's something that I don't think a lot of people know about. That Eomer can come from the stables. He just requires you to cleanse Théoden first. Otherwise, the only way to get him is through the exiled camp, not the king's camp. Once it's upgraded, you can't get Eomer from here anymore, I don't think. In fact, I'm going to test it. I'm going to test it just for... see if you can get Eomer from here. Okay, you can still get Eomer from here. I think that was a bug before. You couldn't get Eomer from the King's Camp, but they fixed it. We'll just have Eomer come back, because I just killed him for no reason. But yeah, that's the weaknesses. Honestly, not too many weaknesses. They're not a late game faction. They are a early to middle game faction. If you wait too long, other factions will dominate you. Similar in a way to Mordor, but Mordor has more variety in their units. Rohan late game, you have to rely on your siege to do the work, but again, you've also got very basic siege. Even Gondor has one extra siege unit, and this siege can't get upgraded with a Firestone upgrade. And Mordor's siege, which we've also already shown off, have like siege towers and then troll catapults, and their regular catapults can also switch ammunition with Gothmog, but they also just do more damage in general. So yeah, don't rely on your siege, but if you do need a big siege push, you do have a tier 4 power right here, Last March of the Ents, if you want to do that. But I would prefer just going all in with cavalry and Théoden. Speaking of, while I'm talking about this last bit, I'm going to start leveling him up so I can just do the thing. If you don't know what I mean by the thing, that's the thing. So, now we come to how I prefer to play as Rohan, because it's probably the same way the AI kind of plays, and how a lot of you, I imagine, would play as well. In the early game, you are just going to have to accept that corrupted Théoden makes it so going for too much early game is, too much in the early game is a bit weird. The fact you can get your faction leader very early and very cheaply, only 800 resources from the base. If you cleanse him before you get him, he's a lot more. So get him first and then cleanse him as early as possible. But in the early game, just focus on spamming peasants. And again, as I've already said, use the draft and attack command abilities to just get the most out of Théoden existing. Because as his corrupt form, as I said, he can turn peasants into traitors. So a unit like this that has lower entities, if it's about to die, the entire unit's about to die, you can do something similar to what Wolfguard can do, which I'll talk about in the future. But you can turn a near-dead unit of basic peasants, even if they don't have draft, into a pseudo-elite traitor unit that has a timer before it dies, before it expires. And then, yeah, just keep using them to hold back the enemy. You have to play a very defensive early game, I think, with Rohan. You can play aggressive. I don't recommend it. In PvP, I imagine Rohan can play very aggressively as well, but against AI, which is my way of playing the game, just get peasants. Get lots of peasants, and as I said, get some flour mills, which you can draft some more, and then just keep getting better tiers of peasants. And then, as you're doing that, build your economy up so you can get at least some benefits. And then, by that point, you should then have 4 more power points after getting either attack command or draft, whichever one you prefer to go for. You should then be able to cleanse Théoden. Again, cleanse him as soon as possible. The buffs he gives are way better as cleansed Théoden. But do try to use the exile ability on some heroes. I normally use it on Theodred and Gamling, because Gamling can summon peasants for free at tier 2. I can also replenish your army and make your units recruit faster if you get him early on. Only weakness to that is you need to build the archery range, and if you don't like building archers, like I don't, because I normally get cavalry spammed, you just have to build the building, get Gamling, destroy the building, build another flour mill, probably is what I would do. And then, similar to what I do as Gondor, get all your heroes out as soon as possible. Eowyn is just really good at sniping enemy heroes, which will always be fighting against. Always try and deal with enemy heroes as quick as possible. Hammer, while on foot with the peasants, will be constantly healing them, because he is a mobile well. While he's in combat, nearby allies regenerate health points. It's not a lot, but it saves you having to waste a building slot on a well for healing. You can also get the assembly point for healing and replenishment, but obviously it's a settlement, so it's not as easy to get or find on some maps. But also, again, Theodred, really good hero, summons a very powerful ability. I almost crashed the game. Oh my god. Don't do that to me, please. Oh no, the game's not liking it. And yeah, just at that point have fun with it. At that point you should have at least a good control of the map. Against some factions you might struggle, depending on if they counter your cavalry by building monsters. So Misty Mountains and Mordor could be a difficult time. Even Lothlorien could be a difficult time, because their pikemen are quite nasty. So are Imladris. Just beware of pikemen as you start transitioning into making cavalry. Get all your upgrades through the armory. Even if you want to make siege, by all means, make siege. I'm not going to judge you too hard. But yeah, always keep a small army of peasants to deal with enemy pikemen. Use your cavalry to lure the pikemen into your peasant army, and then use your cavalry to sweep up enemy archers and heroes and buildings. Those 3 are important. Cavalry is very good at destroying buildings. Give them Forge Blades and they do even more damage to buildings. So you can very easily take over the map if you have a good army of cavalry. Like, for example, 6 cavalry units from the exile camp, swap it to the king's camp, where you have all 3 exile units to then get the royal vanguard. And then once you get the enemy base locked into their base, even it doesn't matter what they throw you can just throw your glorious charge at them. Death! Oh, it's so good. So good. And I'm going to be rewatching the Lord of the Rings soon. I'm going to get goosebumps 1,000 times over listening to that. Oh. So one of the most epic moments in cinematic history, in my opinion. And I doubt anyone would try to refute that. And yeah, that is how I play Rohan. Quite a simple playstyle. Not like Mordor, where you have to do all these little extra steps to get Sauron leveled up. Just get Théoden. Théoden is the linchpin to your entire faction. You can even get heralds to make it so his leadership still is working for your peasants, even when he's not around. And another thing to note is, I recommend for Hammer and Gamling, keep them both on foot. Keep them both on foot with Merry if you don't have him on with Eowyn. But yeah, keep these 2 on foot because they work best when they're with your army of peasants. Gamling because he has his horn on foot, and obviously he spawns peasants, and also he's a horse archer on his horse, which means he's not as good in charge. Hammer, when fighting just by charging everything, his indefatigable doesn't really trigger. His Untamed Will does still work, but you will take revenge damage. You'll be immune to being attacked, but revenge damage still hurts. So these 2 heroes, I recommend keep them on foot. They're better on foot. they're better working with your peasant army and the free hunters. The rest of them, though, keep them on horseback. Even Eowyn, keep these on horseback, and you can just have so much fun. And now we come to the bit where I imagine most of you are here for: how to beat them when they are controlled by the AI. Similar to Mordor, Rohan is one of the toughest AI in the game, especially in the early game, and if you let them take over the map. In fact, I even kind of showed in the last video of fighting against Rohan as Lothlorien, I think, that I had a bit of a rough early game dealing with Rohan. They was just constantly aggressive over and over again because they had taken so many outposts. They had so much money rolling in constantly, and the AI don't stop. If you let the AI go, they don't stop. So, all you need to remember is that they will prioritize spamming peasants with mixing some cavalry in the mix. Best way to counter them having a completely balanced roster is to have an imbalanced roster, which may sound crazy, but hear me out. As I said, peasants, when they're given full draft near flour mills with all their heroes, are really strong. Strip them of all of that, and they're as weak as orcs, and they are very easy to take down. So go at them with swordsmen and pikemen. Don't even bother with archers, really. There's very little time you'll need archers against Rohan in the early game, because cavalry will always be a present factor. They'll always consider making cavalry. So just have swordsmen and pikemen. Pikemen will protect most of your swordsmen, and swordsmen will protect your pikemen from the peasants. If you're a faction that can make cavalry, I recommend getting a couple of units of cavalry to deal with their ranged units and their siege units, because their archers and these pitch throwers are very dangerous. If you let pitch throwers assault your base, you've lost. They are a win condition to not a guaranteed win, but a very quick win if you're just constantly sat in your base trying to defend. And if they get to you, it's over. Same with their siege. It's simple, but it's efficient. But it is also very weak and very susceptible to just cavalry. Any other faction's cavalry, including Rohan's cavalry, can deal with their backline. You'll never see spear throws because even the AI know that this unit's garbage. Oh god, I want this unit to be good one day, but today's not that day. They take too much damage. Up their health or up their resistance to cavalry charging. I don't know. Give them something. They die to everything else except for including cavalry. Ugh. But yeah, if you just whittle them down enough, make their heroes rush in, but also be very afraid of Eowyn. She may not be the strongest hero killer in the game. She may not even be the best hero in the game. But her smite, when just being thrown at your heroes, will hurt a lot. And if you are caught unawares, she can just kill your heroes. And that will set you back so far if you let her do that. Scout heroes, sure, that's a pips. But your faction leader, your Galadriel, your Théoden, your Gandalf, if she smites them, that's it. That's a lot of money you're going to have to spend to get them back for a hero that is not even half the cost. She is deceptively strong. Just not as strong as other hero killers, which is why I don't rank her very high compared to others. But yeah, overall, be afraid of Rohan. Don't. Oh yeah, and also they will spam out the alliance of between men and elves constantly. This is their version of the Great Eagles, except they are very easily beaten back because they always stay at range. They hardly ever swap to their swords. Just trample them. That is the way to beat this ability. Is just trample them, and that is that, and that is basically everything. Rohan, very good faction, very aggressive faction to say they're a good faction, which most good factions aren't aggressive in this game, except for Rohan and Lothlorien actually. And Erebor technically. Oh yeah, Me saying good factions aren't aggressive doesn't mean anything anymore because of how the game has evolved over the years. This is definitely one of the most fun factions to play with, in my opinion. Rohan, Mordor, they're just so much fun. You really can kind of just go about doing whatever you want if you can just keep your early game under control. The late game is your playground. Get Théoden leveled up, get a bunch of cavalry, run it down, have some fun. Playing against them can also be very fun because it's a decent challenge that isn't overbearing compared to a faction like Mordor. Mordor can be very overbearing. Rohan is honestly just a nice ride. You just fight through it, you work hard for it, and you come out of it enjoying it. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one, which will be a poll deciding on which faction is next. Obviously, Rohan's taken out, and the Iron Hills. No one liked the Iron Hills either, so they're getting taken out. And we'll have Angmar. I can't remember who the other faction was. But yeah, there will be 2 new factions in the poll, along with the 2 factions that got the 2nd and 3rd highest votes. Until then, I'll see you all in the next one. Farewell.